Cramer's rule with 3 variables. So today we are going to take and use Cramer's rule, but this time we're going to have 3 variable equations. And when we're solving a 3 variable equation, we need to have 3 equations to be able to identify those. So it's going to start just like yesterday. We're going to first identify our coefficient matrix, and we're going to take the determinant of it. And so for your x column, it's going to be 1, 6, 5. For your y column, 2, negative 5, 0. For your z column, 5, negative 3, 4. And when we're taking a determinant of a 3 by 3, we need to repeat the first 2 columns in order to be able to take the determinant. And so that's going to rewrite the first 2. So 1, 6, 5, and 2, negative 5, 0. Now we're going to do our downs minus our ups. And I'm going to start with my ups. So that diagonal is going to give me negative 125. And then the next diagonal up would be 0. And the third diagonal up is going to be 48. If I was to combine those, I ended up with a negative 77. And so my ups would be negative 77. Now we need to find our downs. And we're going to go the opposite direction, starting at the top and going down for each of those 3 diagonals. And so the first diagonal is going to give us a negative 20. The second one is going to give us a negative 30. And the last one is going to give us a 0. So when I combine those, I end up with a negative 50. So if I do downs minus my ups, I end up with a negative 50 minus a negative 77, which is going to add to be a positive 27 when I combine those. So my coefficient matrix is 27. The determinant of my coefficient matrix. We're going to do the same thing, but this time we are going to be dealing with replacing our x column with the answers. So this is the coefficient matrix with the x's replaced. And so when I replace the x's, I'm going to put 4, 14, 12. And the y's and the z's are going to stay the same. So 2, negative 5, 0, 5, negative 3, 4. And so this is my answers, y's, and z's. And then the last things we're going to have is the first 2 columns repeated, 4, 14, 12, and 2, negative 5, 0. Now I'm going to do my ups. So when I look for my up diagonals, I have 3 of them. The first up diagonal is going to give me a negative 300. The second up diagonal is that 0 diagonal. And the third is going to give me a positive 112 when I multiply. So when I combine those, I get a negative 188. So we're going to end up subtracting that here in a second. Now let's look at my down diagonals. And the first down diagonal is there. And so the first down diagonal is going to be a negative 80. My second one is going to give me a negative 72, and my third is going to be that 0 diagonal. And so when I combine those, I get a negative 152. So I do my down diagonals minus my up diagonals, and I get a negative 152 minus a negative 188, just adding that 188, and that gives me a total of 36. So my C of X determinant is 36. We are going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to be replacing our Y's with the answer matrix. And so this is the coefficient with Y replaced. And so the X ones are 1, 6, 5. We're replacing the Y columns, so that's going to be 4, 14, 12. And replacing the Z column, 5, negative, or putting down our Z column, 5, negative 3, 4. And so remember, X answers Z. And when I recopy the first two, 1, 6, 5, and a 4, 14, 12. And then I'm going to do my ups and downs. So my first diagonal up would be here. And I'll go ahead and mark all three. So that first diagonal up would be add 350. And then the next one would be minus 36. And then the last one is a positive 96. And when we combine those, it ends up being positive 410. Now we're going to do our down diagonals. And let's mark that down before I keep going. And so my first down diagonal is here. And that first one is going to give me a positive 56 when I multiply it. The next one is going to be a negative 60. And the third is going to give me a positive 360. When I combine those by adding or subtracting based upon their sign, I get positive 356. So my downs are a positive 356 minus my ups, which is a 410, which gives me a total of negative 54. So my C of Y is determinant of the C of Y is negative 54. And so the last one we have to do is when we replace our Z column with the answer matrix. And so this is a coefficient matrix with Z replaced. And so the first column, 1, 6, 5, 2, negative 5, 0, 4, 14, 12, and then repeat the first two columns, 1, 6, 5, and 2, negative 5, 0. And we're going to start with our up diagonals. And the first up is going to be here. One great thing is we got that 0 back, and that's going to help with some of the multiplication. And the first up is going to be a negative 100, 0 for the second up diagonal, and 144 for the third. Now we're going to go to our downs. And our first down diagonal is here. And that product is going to be a negative 60. The next one is going to be a positive 140. And the last one is the one that has a 0. And so it's 0. So when I combine those, I get a total of 80. So 80 minus that up, which wasn't 144. I don't know why I put the number there. I must have combined those. And that's going to give me a positive 44. And that gives us a 36 for the C of Z determinant. So now that we have all four of those numbers, we're going to use them. And I just made it simpler by writing them again for myself here. Because our goal is to get to where we have an x, a y, and a z. And just like yesterday when you were finding your x, you did your c of x determinant divided by your c determinant. We're going to do the same thing here. So when we reduce that, we end up coming up with 4/3. And that gives us our x. Then we are going to do our y. And so to find y, we're going to take our c of y determinant divided by your c determinant. And so that's negative 54 divided by 27, which when we reduce that, that gives us a negative 2. And so our y is 2, or negative 2, excuse me. And then our last one is z. And we're going to take our coefficient with z replaced, divided by our coefficient matrix determinant. So that's 36 divided by 27, which when I simplify that down is 4/3. And so our final answer will go into the x, y, and z format, or if it's not x, y, and z, go alphabetically, and it's an order triplet. And that's your answer.